Hey guys, welcome to this last week of our class. So this week there is no assignments. I will go through and make sure that if I didn't miss any points or whatever the case is, but I'm going to do the review for the final exam. So there is questions on this one. I believe there are 17 questions. They accumulate to 50 points. There'll be a bonus question that I will not share with you. Those who have taken my class before, Dominic, Fernando, they're familiar with my crazy tactic. Bonus questions, they're irrelevant to the class, but they are relevant to the city of Pittsburgh. So there'll be some off-the-wall Pittsburgh question that you probably can Google, but I'm going to hope that you can't. I'll do my best to figure that you can't. Anyways, so we'll go over the exam. It's two parts. The first part will be questions. The questions aspect of it will... Once the funnel is available, the questions aspect of it doesn't have a timer, so you can take as long as you want. But you'll have a week to turn in both parts. So what will happen is December 10th on Monday at midnight, so we'll be going Sunday to midnight night. The final will be available, both parts, 1 and 2. They'll be separated. One will have the questions that we're going to go over, and the second one will have the programming code that you have to write, and we'll go over what that's going to be. So you have a week to develop it, and then you have to submit it by Friday. There will be no extensions on the final exam. So if you have something that comes up, I'm sorry, I have a specific time that I have to turn in your grades, and I believe it's Monday of that following week, which would be, the 14th, 15th, 17th. So I really need to get those in. So, all right, here we go. Get started. So what does an API stand for? And I'm not going to send you this document, so take notes and study it. It stands for Application Programming Interface. All right, so that is the answer to first one to number one. All right, so the second one is when a web request is made, you can provide an example of what that would be. So A, would it be go to a website address? So you go to a website like www.google.com, you make a request. Is that one? Is it B, check your email? C, validate a database table? Or D, turn in your assignment? So we know it's not this one. We know it's not this one. Check your email could almost be one because you're making a request. But the answer I'm looking for is go to a website. All right. What does HTTP stand for? Is it Hypertext Transfer Protocol? Is it Hadoop Text Transfer Privacy? Is it Internet Address, or is it Hypertext Transfer Privacy? If you were thinking A, you're right, it's A. All right, so when using RESTful web service, what is the format message that is returned? So what is the format of how a message is returned? Is it using JSON? Is it using XML? Is it using a web service or database? Well, it is a web service, and the web service is connecting to a database, but the format that we're using when we're using RESTful is JSON. Number 5, is JSON a readable format for structuring data? True or false? Answer is true, because it is the format, and it answers that question there. So when using SOAP messages, so SOAP messages is a different form of a web service that we talked about. Do you use XML formatting for the return message from and to? And yes, you do use XML. And that's the reason it came out with JSON for a plain text view, which made it a lot easier. So when setting up a web service in Android development, can you name one of the items needed to make it work? So move that down there. All right. So is it an email, an API key? Is it JSON, or all of the above? So when setting up a web service, if you remember, there's 3 components that we use. In this case, that we're looking for is API key. So API key is one of the components that we use in order to make that call. Yes, JSON is used to receive data, and email is not even used at all. So that's your answer. 8. Does SQL stand for Structured Query Language? If you were thinking false, you're wrong. It's true. All right, so when working with SQLite, can you name one library that was needed? So can you think of a library that was needed when we were using SQLite? So what I'm looking for in this question is looking for you to type in the library. So in this case, it would be import. Well, you don't have to type in import. You just type in Android.database. There was two of them, but this one, if you thought about this one, SQLite.SQLite database, which is the main one. There you go. So that is the answer I'm looking for in here. If you don't put that, I don't really care about that. Just as long as you have Android.database.SQLite.SQLite database, I'm good. All right, number 10. In Android, how do you... All right. Well, here's the answer. I forgot to take it out. How do you create a new Java class? Write a summary of what you do. You right-click on the project or the package, and you choose New in Java class. Number 11. What was the web service platform that was used with the parse? Did we use Azure by Microsoft? Did we use Amazon Web Services? Did we use Firebase or Google? If you were thinking Azure, you're absolutely incorrect. It was Amazon Web Services. All right, 13. In parse, can you name three important components used in the API? So we know server URL was in there because we had to name the URL to our server in Azure. In Amazon Web Services. We needed an application ID, so that's one. And do we need an email ID or a database URL? We need a database URL. So these would be your three components. All right, 13. When sending a message value to parse, is the command called send? So was it send that we use? If you remember, we used a command that you use in RESTful services, and that's called put. So the answer is false. Number 14, the command call to obtain values back from parse is called what? Is it called getting? No, close. It's get. So that answer is false as well. All right. What is the name of the ID that we use in this course? Android Studio. So that was answer number 15. All right, number 16. We'll get to this one shortly. Number 16, let's move that down there. How can you tell if services are running in AWS? How can you tell? So if you went into the AWS, how can you tell? You could validate. So what I'm looking for is validate in the dashboard the instances section. So you'd validate the instances, you view the instances, and it would show you what is running, what is not. What company acquired Parse? I talked about this. It was Facebook. And that's when Facebook made them open source. So that right there is your questions. Okay, so that's part one on a question. So if you need to go back, pause it, write down the questions and answer, and that will help you with the exam. The video will not be available during next week. I will take it offline. So write down your questions beforehand. Let's see here. All right, final exam part 2. So what you're going to do is you're going to use Parse Platform. You're going to create a new object from the Parse Platform. Your platform is going to hold 5 objects. You're going to have one for movie name. So an example, what I'm looking for is the name of a movie, such as I Am Number 4. You're going to give it a rating, which is a whole number from 1 to 10. A genre, R, PG, whatever, not XXX, but the normal ones. Filming locations, where was it filmed at? Pittsburgh, PA. You just need one filming location value in there. Summary of movie. In this case, aliens and their guardians are hiding on Earth from intergalactic bounty hunters. So you give it something small and brief. It doesn't have to be 1,000 words. Those are what I'm looking for. Those are some types of value. You can use whatever movies you want. That's up to you. At least, I should have put here, at least a minimum of 1,000 values. Okay, so you'll put this in 1,000 times. I'm only kidding. 5 values. I put 4 5 values is a minimum. So minimum will be 5 values at best. 1,000 was a lot. All right. So you'll need to create, here's the other part. So we've already accomplished that part. We did that before. You create the Android app, page title, Android app will call movies. You'll have 5 text boxes. 5 so that you can display all these values. So when you pull it up, you have in the text box item number 4, rating, say a 4, example, PG, filming location, Pittsburgh, PA, etc. 2 buttons. The functionality is you'll have a button. You click on a button, and the parse will go and get the value. So if you watch a video, we talked about how to get it. It's the same thing. So you click the button, it calls parse. Parse gets the value, returns it into the text box value. So what I'm thinking is you have the original buttons, whatever you call it. Say you call it start. You click on start, and then what happens is another button appears. This other button is called next. It makes it visible, and then what happens is you click next, and then it pulls up the next values that you didn't display you get from parse. So all you're doing in this case is you're using a loop, or not a loop. Well, yeah, you're using a loop, but you could use a what the heck you call it? Oh boy, it's on the top of my tongue. Use a list. So use a list, and you grab the values. So you have this value, it's 0, the value is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and so forth. And so then you have next, and then you have the second button is to take you home. So once you click on the home button, what happens is the next button, you could change the visibility to false, and then you go back to your main page, and you have your blank values there. So you could clear out the values, and that's it. So it's pretty straightforward. And here's the thing, you already have your dashboard up and running. You already know how to create your objects, so that's easy. You can even create it through the dashboard, but you'll have to write the code in Android to be able to receive it back. So it's pretty straightforward. You'll have a whole week to write the code. So when you start Final Part 2, I'll have it out there, what it is, when it's available. And once you start that part, all you'll have to do is, in order to, what I'm looking for in return, I guess I should have put this in here. So what I'm looking for in Blackboard, send me a screenshot. Well, let's see here. Let me think about it. Send me your code via GitHub or GitLab, sorry. And that's all I need is your code, and I will test your programming code and make sure it works. And that's all I'm looking for. So send me your code via GitLab. Make sure I have access. So send me the link. And that's it. That's worth 250 points. So that's a significant amount of points. Now I'll go through and see if we have any points to give away or whatever the case is, and we'll go from there. All right. Hopefully this helps, and best of luck. So this last week, you have time to study for the exam. You have time to work on your final project. That final project is not due until. Let's see. The final project is not due until, I think I had it over here somewhere. Here it is. Final project is not, I don't have it in here. That would be too smart to have it here, but I think it's the last week. But let me double check in the syllabus. Be too smart to have this answer here. All right. Final week, the 14th at 11:59. So it's due at the same time as your exam. So I'm giving you guys 2 good weeks here to work on stuff. The other thing is I'm going to send out a peer review. I find the peer review to be very important. And the reason being is it tells me who did what, who didn't do what, and so forth. So it'll be for your team. Each person will fill it out for all their teammates. They won't fill one out for themselves, but they'll fill out and they'll rate that person how they felt that they did, and areas that, and so forth. The reason I do this is my personal experience when I went to school is we'd get a project and it didn't matter who did it, everybody got the same grade. And to me, that's not fair. If you have one person in your group who doesn't do any of the work and everyone else busts their butts. And to me, the people that put the work in should get the points. So it's, fair. And it's different. It's very difficult online because you guys are all working in a remote location. Nobody has direct access to each other unless you're meeting on campus or whatever the case is. So I find that peer reviews to be very important, and peer reviews are required. So if you do not return a peer review, there will be a deduction in your final points. So please turn it in. I will put those out there this week as well sometime. All right, best of luck. If you have any questions, please reach out to me. Now is the time. Once you start taking the final exam, part 2, I can't help you. So if you reach out to me and say, hey, I'm having a problem with the code, I can't help. That's why it's a final exam. So best of luck, and I'll talk to you soon. Thanks. Bye.